American politics, with the dream and the gleam and the dice that rolls that the politics of our electoral process has been now come to its last year of Biden and Kamala administration in the White House. Unfortunately, what we have here is Trump didn't succeed in the second term. Biden, right now, and Kamala Harris have to integrate what they might want to say. But, with ailing health, and we have ideas that we say Trump would run again, the same old, we don't want that same bout. But the front runner of that backbone institution of saying who couldn't actually be the first female president of America, of the United States, right? We have GOP front runner to Trump, but we know that there are more people here looking at the broad side of the avenue of the road to the White House. And I think the only way that would pertain would say that would be the GOP frontrunner Nikki Haley. So she would be the Republican underdog that would succeed in Trump's dismay of the same old, and we want something more than ditch out the swamp, or how did they say, or drain the swamp, and whatever's down there. I'm sure the alligators have already rummaged through that, like any other prone to their own habitat in their neighborhood or in their backyard, let alone their state. But that's American politics. But the dominating factor is it domestic policy that is more acquisition, as we know the deficit, as we know relations to China, and state by state doctrine of migrants south of the border, our trading partners, America with our Canadian incentives, jobs. So there's a whole issues, and also what is most important is what is foretold in the run up to the election. If Biden, has rumors said that he has failing health, there had never been a time in history, other than if when Nixon resigned, right, and he had that famous salute, and I tend to think that on a governor on the White House lawn, he last said, when he waved goodbye over the Watergate scandal. At that time, he resigned as the first American sitting president, never in any time in history, and you won't probably necessarily read about that in history books either. But regardless, what happened after that is to say who would have that recognition to say, on a credible note, there will be some political insiders to say how Trump used his ability to use how he lost those two states in Phoenix, Arizona, and the other state, those two states he lost, turned the tides. And what began after that was the fiasco when he lost the second presidential run to undermine the whole electoral process. Again, Trump is unbewildered. It's not a game show. It's a consensus of what is right. They shouldn't have to choose which is worse for wear. Like two bad option, which one would That's not how American politics is ever run. Again, last time that the American budget was ever balanced was in '92, and when Clinton in 8 years was able to do that. A man from Nebraska, Arkansas, Little Rock, came out as a contender, and what did he do as a Democrat? Remember, this is going 3 decades, but nevertheless, he balanced the budget. He tried to get the peace initiative in Israel, and with the three parties with America and brokered. And at that time, we know what happened after that. Unbeknownst to us, that as well, but not since then after. Not the budget now has it ever explained, and you're not explaining the consensus of other dignitaries that are aforementioned that have known the Congress, who have issued the senators their ability to ask the right questions. And, going back to Reaganomics in 81, prior to the election to Jimmy Carter, the peanut farmer himself, who he always establishes rightful ownership, habitat for humanity, and to house those Americans and peanut farmers alike. And this was the doctrine. Now, what happened when Reagan came in? We knew inflation doubled, right? We knew gas price doubled. We knew our rental, housing, everything doubled, doubled, doubled. So we know when we say trickle down economy, at that time, we decentralized banks in America and made it more smooth, and we knew what that happened. All those SNL saving loans, man, we took out astonishing amount of credit and built that and bankrupted those facilities. Sort of what we're having here now. But the laws that pertain to the Commonwealth or Canada is indifferent and much more severe and dynamic. That's why we see how they echelon other ideas to echo in the new years, and at the same time the deficit soars. We have to always stick to the agenda at foreground of the Americans' backbone, of hardworking people who know that they will not be sold out to overseas interests and send their resources and raw material for fabrication to only have it sold back to them at inflationary rates. Unfortunately, this is what it costs. Here in Canada, we experience the same thing, and there's more and more criteria when we're talking about our resources. If it is not from here, it's from other people who know how our resources in Canada is a main ventricle component that will sustain the Earth's vital resources for the future and many decades to come. That is why we have to always echelon our environment to make sure of those resources in a renewable resources, mind you say, that is also making it more ideal to know how dire. We have to know that Mr. Justin Trudeau and other opponents, that this is the most vital intricate. We must use that backbone of Canadian roots to know what matters most to our country and to our neighbors to the south. This is Ajdan Karadenis signing out. Have a good evening.